Still struggling. Okay, well, I think we're good. I think we're on a new one. So what I'll do for that first one. Are we live? I think we're live, right? Yeah, we're back. Okay, yeah. So this disconnects every now and then, which is crummy. If that happens during the trade deadline stream, I'll just separate them into different streams based on different trades or whatever. So that first one I'll just leave as the post game show. This one I'll just leave as the trade alert one because we're just talking trades right now, if that makes sense.
But you only have 17 people instead.
I know. Come back. Hey, it refilled last time.
Yeah.
But I told people to check for new stream. If that happens, guys, just check for a new stream. Because like this.
Well, you might want to wait a second because everyone who's in here right now obviously knows how to do that.
100% true. Let me go into YouTube and let me go into.
Yeah, Wi-Fi got traded too. Monster Killer 3, heck no sign of Jamal Crawford.
We need better defense, man. Just throwing up in my mouth.
Our problems are defense and ball movement, and he solves neither.
Man, I don't understand. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't understand people that want Jamal Crawford. Like,
Robbie,
what do they think our issues are? You know what I mean? And how does he solve our issues?
Robbie Stacks keeps on posting the same thing. Spammer.
Well, if I miss your post, don't spam it, please. I'm gonna miss people's posts, so don't, you know.
But he says, but yeah, I mean, there's not really a question there, so.
Why is he spamming it?
I don't know. I mean, we already talked. If you got caught up on the post game show, you would have known we all already talked about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you keep posting it, but we love you, Robbie Stacks.
So is it still the same post game? I don't understand.
No, it's a completely different stream.
How do I edit it though?
But he said,
how do I edit it? I don't know. I don't know, man. YouTube.
It's only 29 people instead of 100.
Oh
so.
no, I'm sorry. But whoever didn't check back in, they ain't the real ones, you know. Okay, I can edit it here. This one will be the trade alert one. Trade alert. Covington to Rockets.
I know Robbie Stacks, but I'm just teasing you, man. What's up? But yeah, the game sucks, so we moved on to actual trade that happened.
Yep. There we go. Updated the stream. I'll edit this one to be the post-game show. And that's how we'll separate it. That works out well for us, except for the loss in viewers. That just works out because then we can have the post-game stream up there. And yeah. Alrighty. Portland Trail Blazers at Denver Nuggets. Recap, in parentheses, kinda. No, I'm just kidding. Uprise post.
Well, it's honest.
Show. Game number 51. Loss number 28. Almost as many losses as last year, man. So yeah, I wish it happened earlier, like right when the trade happened, so we could go live and like actually talk about this to start this video for anybody that's like clicking back on this looking for information about the Covington trade. But we're just talking trade talks. We're doing trade talk. We've already broken this down. Check our previous video, the Denver Nuggets post-game stream. If you want our opinions, it's like in the middle of that. But if you want our opinions on this 4-team trade that went down, that's where you can find it. For anybody watching this back as a video after this. What were we talking about before the stream died? I was going to disagree with you on something. Make your point again so I can know what I'm disagreeing with again.
I don't remember.
It was about traded player exception. You didn't like the trade Ariza versus having a traded player exception by trading both contracts or something.
Oh, well, no, what I was saying was it would be possible to get completely it would be easier to get under the tax and create a big trade exception if we had both of them still to combine
Here's my argument
salaries
against that,
to.
though. Then you wouldn't have Ariza, right? And Ariza's
No,
$13 million expiring is just as like helpful as a traded player exception for like 15 million. You know?
yes, I agree. I obviously said that. This is why I wasn't high on Ariza at the time of the trade, was that the opportunity cost of further trades, like you don't know what we could have gotten for that Bazemore and 2 picks down the road.
True.
In hindsight, I am fine with the trade and what Ariza has brought to this team and future benefits of his contract. I'm just saying, if we were truly trying to duck the tax or create a big trade exception, it could have possibly been easier to do if we had both of them.
True. And it might have been, also being plugged in and having that level of foresight that, we don't have the possibility of having, we just try and I mean, when you look at Minnesota asking for 2 first-round picks for Robert Covington, 2 second-round picks for Trevor Ariza, and a $7 million traded player exception and saving $6 million doesn't look bad at all when you compare it to that. Obviously, Ariza's not as good as Covington, but difference of 2 second-round picks and savings compared to 2 first-round picks.
Yeah. But yeah,
I can't wait till we go up against Houston again when Nurkic is back. That's the game I'll like having Hassan Whiteside the most. Is we'll just literally have.
Oh really?
That's the one game I'll like having Hassan. I don't want to keep Hassan Whiteside, but if we have Hassan Whiteside and Nurkic for that Houston game,
you know it's going to happen
what?
though. Stouts will play Swanigan at power forward next to Whiteside against.
God.
And we won't take advantage of having 2 centers out there, and they'll just hit like 10 threes in a quarter like the Mavericks did against us.
Together. I meant just having them at center.
No,
it's 48 minutes of that.
No, but I'm saying the last time we played a team that didn't play a center, we played Swanigan at power forward and had him double team Luka Doncic at half court, and they hit 10 threes in the first quarter against us. So didn't really work out too well.
True. Montrez is a free agent this summer. That's why I don't think he'd be a good pickup for us, because I don't think he'd stay. Because I think he might want to be a starting center. Also, paying max contract for a backup center, it's not worth it. And we'd probably have to pay a max contract for him. Then again, we kind of got a near max contract center. If Nurkic returns and is back to his former self, we kind of got him for $12 million. So maybe it'd be more acceptable, but still. Harrell doesn't really fit at power forward. He just doesn't shoot well enough. He can defend power forwards. He's not like Whiteside where he can't shoot and can't defend at power forward. So maybe play him a little bit there. But I don't know. It's just risky with him leaving and the assets you'd have to give up for him and all that. So
Trez is actually I've seen him several times this year like take the ball up and go coast to coast and like attack a defense. So he is starting to get some playmaking ability, which even if it's just for himself. But yeah, I really don't see any trade that works. And then so I finally looked it up for the Cavs. Yeah. They are $5.5 million under the tax right now. So we are $6.3 million over the tax. So any trade we did to get under the tax with them would have to include another team, so they didn't go over the tax. So then you're getting kind of tricky there.
So nothing, not I don't think anything lines up with them outside of Whiteside for Love, which I would hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't hate that, but I wouldn't be a fan of that.
Hold up, just a second. See, Dallas is tricky because if they didn't trade for Cauley-Stein, they would have. I think
they're like $9 million under the tax with a $9 million player exception.
This would be easy for them to do if they did not make that trade. But I'm going to see if it works still anyway. But John Henson makes $9.7 million. And they're exactly $9.7 million under the tax, I believe. So it'd be close. They might have to give up they'd have to anyway, because I don't think they have a roster spot because of the Cauley-Stein trade.
I just read something funny.
What?
Adrian Wojnarowski just tweeted out, about the 4-team trade says the trade leaves the Rockets with a brief window until Thursday's trade deadline to expand this 4-team trade to include up to $12 million in salary on another player. They could add a player who helps now, take on a player for future assets, and use those to further upgrade the team, etc. So this 4-team, 12-player trade, which is the most players involved since 2000, has a chance of becoming a 5-team trade, maybe a 6-team trade. If anyone's ever going to make that happen, it's going to be Daryl Morey. I wonder who for $12 million would fit there.
What kind of center would they?
They could honestly, so I said Kelly Olynyk would be the perfect fit for them. If they traded out I don't think they're trading out Cephalosha, but like another minimum contract, they could take back Olynyk from Miami, and that would help. I don't know, maybe help a trade happen for Miami where they trade for like Kevin Love. Maybe they send like Justice Winslow and like somebody else.
6-team trade.
Yeah, screw it, dude. Send Olynyk to Houston. Houston trades like, I don't know, 2nd-round picks or something, and throws in a minimum contract like Cephalosha, and then Miami sends like Justice Winslow and maybe another player to Cleveland to get back Kevin Love. Cleveland saves like $15 million, and then Cleveland takes on a bad contract from another team and gets some assets there. Make it a 7-team trade. Oh man.
Man, I think it looks like Henson makes like literally a couple thousand more than would fit into the leftover of their trade exception.
No, he fits. He fits, I think. I've done this. I've actually done this, I swear. I've done this math. Maybe I'm wrong, though. But I thought he'd like perfectly fit under.
Or maybe it was before the
no, it was
Cauley Stein
after.
trade. What would you, if let's say it did work? So you're talking about Tristan Thompson for Whiteside, and then John Henson goes to Dallas using their trade exception. Would you give up a lottery protected first in that move? Or what would you give up for that?
For what again? Sorry, I was reading a tweet. I'm blanking out on you a little bit too much. My bad. But what'd you say?
So you get Henson. Or Henson would go to Dallas if it fit. And then Whiteside would go to Cleveland and a minimum contract like Brokoff or something from Dallas. And then we get Tristan Thompson. So we create like a $9 million trade exception and get completely under the tax. Is that worth a first? That's tough.
No, it's not. It's not worth the first. The traded player exception is not big enough, not close enough to being big enough. Maybe. Honestly,
I guess
you'd have more luck of sending Tristan Thompson to Dallas and Dallas sending Courtney Lee. Because I think let me go to the trade machine.
I don't think that works.
It's close though, because $5 million. Because they're not. Dallas isn't in the tax. They're $10 million under the tax. So so they'd have to send out a minimum contract after that. So maybe you have
like Justin Jackson.
Well, you'd have like Thompson to Dallas, and you'd have to throw in another. I don't know. Thompson to Dallas, and then like we take on Courtney Lee, and we take on Brokoff with one of our smaller traded player exceptions. We send Whiteside to Dallas, or not Whiteside to Dallas. We send Whiteside to Cleveland.
But this doesn't help them. Who else are they getting rid of?
Cleveland?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to figure out. Because
that wouldn't create another.
Because Cleveland would have to trade out another $3.8 million, but they could trade it to.
No, we're back to the same thing where they can't do that because they go over the tax then.
Maybe it's Dellavedova. No, watch. I got you. Actually, that would put Dallas over the tax, though. But maybe Dallas doesn't care about paying the tax. Because you could do. We send Whiteside to Cleveland. Cleveland sends Tristan Thompson and Dellavedova to Dallas. Dallas absorbs Dellavedova with that traded player exception. Then they trade Courtney Lee and Brokoff to us to match for Thompson. And then we would absorb Brokoff with a traded player exception. And then we'd get like a $14.3 million traded player exception.
But putting them into the tax ruins their being able to take $5 million over their contract, so it makes it less that they can only take back 125% then for Courtney Lee. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're right. 12.8 plus 1.4 times 1.25. Wait, no. 14.2. This is obviously rough estimates. They'd have to trade out another minimum contract, Dallas would, to match that. But they could trade or they'd have to trade out like Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Justin Jackson to Dallas, or Justin Jackson to Cleveland. Yeah, so Cleveland gets Whiteside, Justin Jackson, Dallas gets Thompson and Dellavedova, and we get Courtney Lee. Dallas would just be over the tax.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd.
But maybe you'd give up a first round pick to
Thompson.
Dallas for that. You know what I mean? Like they get a center, and I don't know.
You could. Well, you probably have to give a first. I don't see Cleveland doing that unless they get a first out of it.
They get Justin Jackson though, which is a good, solid young wing, and they don't have a ton there. Like
it is.
Yeah, but for a guy who's worthless in Dellavedova and a guy who's going to leave in Thompson, they're not going to get a first round pick back. Thompson wants out, so if they're able to get like Whiteside, who they buy out, and then just get like some sort of value, just like a youngish wing, maybe a second round pick thrown in there from Dallas or something, then maybe, I don't know. But the template I like... God, what was it? Let me find it. There's a certain... You've seen my trade template. I think I tweeted it out, but like the template...
Yeah, it's something like $12 million with using the trade exception.
I'll show chat this. You guys can see like my ideal trade template, okay? But the thing is, not a lot of stuff fits under it. So... but I'll pull up a display. I'll put my display on the screen. Why does it make it so big? What the hell? I don't want it big like that. Or I don't want it at the whole screen. Never mind. I don't know what I'm saying. All right. So this is just an example of a type of trade which we could like include other teams and other players, but like would create a $27 million traded player exception. And I honestly think this might be a good trade for all teams. I'm going to see what Eric thinks about it, because I don't think I tweeted this out. San Antonio. Okay, so you have Whiteside. So the Clippers are looking for like an upgrade at starting center, apparently, right? Over Zubac. So you'd have Whiteside there. We'd get back Zubac. Harkless to Spurs. Magruder to Portland. And then Hezonja to the Spurs. And Damari Carroll to the Clippers. And Labissiere to the Clippers. I know this works under the CBA too, but Trade Machine doesn't work with trade exceptions. It doesn't register them. It says that there, but it glitches. So
that's because you're using the wrong trade machines.
I know. But okay, so I would so this trade, right? This trade works under the CBA. I'll explain why. But I'll explain the logic first for the Spurs. The Spurs are $9 million under the tax. They're set to owe Damari Carroll $7 million next year. He's not playing for them. So I think if they could get expirings back for Damari Carroll, then they do it if they remained under the tax just to get out from that $7 million because he's been worthless to them. So like Harkless and Hezonja for Damari Carroll, you think San Antonio does that?
Harkless and
Hezonja for Damari Carroll. So they get out from his $7 million next year.
Maybe. Yeah, they'd probably do that.
So they can. Did they lose that trade? Oh, they can absorb Hezonja because he's a minimum contract, and then Carroll matches Harkless.
I think there's a 0% chance the Clippers do this trade. But...
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's just a hypothetical though. It's just being creative, right? So if the Clippers really, I would trade a first round pick in this trade. So say the Clippers really want an upgraded center, and we trade a first round pick, right? They're trading out Harkless, Zubac, and Magruder. Okay, this matches Whiteside. They have a $9.8 million traded player exception, which can absorb Damari Carroll and Skal Labissiere because they add up to 9.3, and you can split it amongst multiple players, right? Harkless, Magruder, and Zubac add up to 22.3, which matches Whiteside's 27.1. So they can take on these two salaries with the trade player exception and take on Whiteside for what they're sending out. San Antonio can do this because Carroll matches Harkless, and then Hezonja's a minimum contract, so they don't have to match that, right? We get back Zubac, which we would put into the Kent Bazemore traded player exception. His 6.5 fits under that. And then Hezonja plus Labissiere matches for Magruder. So we're absorbing Zubac for trade player exception. Labissiere and Hezonja matches Magruder. So Whiteside would then have a $27 million traded player exception created for him because we match the salary with other methods. So we're basically sending out $27 million that we don't need to send out. That creates a $27.1 million traded player exception. So, like, if we got, maybe fit in other teams with different salaries, whatever, the problem is one team would have to take on a lot of salary. That's the Clippers in this scenario. They're sending out $22 million and getting back basically an extra $14 million. But that's where, like...
That would go into the tax.
Yeah, but Ballmer said, like... Hasn't Ballmer said money is not going to matter for them? I saw a report like that. Obviously, that much money into the tax is a ton. But, like... Maybe they want that center upgrade so bad that if we trade out a first round pick as well,
I don't see them thinking Whiteside and Carroll is enough to spend like $25 million in tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying.
I mean, maybe there's a team out there that can take on Carroll who's like not close to the tax, who would take him on for a couple second round picks. And that could reduce the tax bill for the Clippers, but like it just making this work for the Clippers would be tough. But this would be a dream trade because we have to give up a first, but we'd get back a good backup center. Zubac is like solid. They want to upgrade him. I didn't expect that to be the case, but they want to upgrade him, so we get back Zubac, cheap contract, young, good defender, serviceable, can play 20 minutes per game behind Nurk and be fine with it. You know what I mean? So we'd get our big replacement. Magruder would be a $5 million trade player, or he'd be a $5 million expiring contract next season because his third year is unguaranteed. But then we'd also have a $27 million traded player exception from Whiteside. We'd get under the tax by far. So something like that would be dream trade. You know, it's just tough with the Clippers, in this scenario. But that's where I want like O'Shea to be creative. You know, so I mean, or I don't know. There's like other combinations of this we could do. Like that makes our trade player exception lower, but doesn't give the Clippers back so much salary if they want to keep their bill lower but still want to go get Whiteside. So I'm gonna substitute in Detroit instead of San Antonio. They've said they've wanted a backup guard apparently because they don't trust. This would just be a little bit less money. It's still going to be a decent amount of money, but maybe something like we take on Tony Snell and we get back Zubac and Detroit gets Magruder. Where's it? And yeah, so this is the other scenario where like maybe we'd give up a first to the Clippers in this scenario. The Clippers take on, you know, maybe they'd send out another small contract, you know, maybe Derek Walton to the Pistons or whatever. But the Pistons kind of create some line between them and the tax. No, we'd have to trade out expirings. Where's our expirings? Oh, no, we wouldn't. Okay, so this is the other trade I kind of like. So Pistons get out from Tony Snell's contract. He goes to us, right? So they save, like, they'd have to pay Magruder next year, but they save $6.5 million, which makes sense for them. They do have to give up Galloway. Maybe they get a second-round pick back for Galloway or whatever. You kind of see the logic there for Detroit. So they save money. You know, Galloway's an expiring. They're in rebuild mode. I doubt Galloway stays. They got Bruce Brown, who's a young guard, kind of upcoming in that position. You know, who knows what they do at point guard, but saves Detroit some money, gets them further away from the tax. Maybe they could do something else. And they save money next year. Maybe you give them a second round pick. The Clippers still get back. Oh no, Harkless is going to. Oh crap. I had Harkless to Detroit. But Detroit still saves money this year, I think. Yeah, they still save money. They save like $3 million instead of as much as they had. Okay, there we go. That's better. So they save $3 million. They still shed money next season by going from Snell to Magruder, maybe throwing a second-round pick. It's still kind of the same trade. They just save a little bit less. The Clippers send out $22 million, so they still get back like they send out $22.5 million. They still get back like $12 million more. But they also get a little bit more value because now they get a backup guard. They've been worried about Patrick Beverley's durability, so they might be looking for like a backup guard, apparently. That's just report I've read. And maybe you still give up a first-round pick. So maybe this trade makes a little bit more sense for the Clippers. And then for us, you still get that backup center in Zubac. You absorb him with the Bazemore trade player exception. And then Whiteside, you bring in Snell. Our trade player exception would be the difference between Whiteside and Snell. So we'd create a $15.7 million trade player exception, and then Snell also would be like a $12 million expiring contract trade next season alongside with a $15.7 million trade player exception. We still get our backup center. So like, you think this trade is a little better? Like, what do you think about
that? Yeah, it's probably a little better, but I still don't see.
Yeah.
I just don't think $27 million for a center like Whiteside is just like, you've got two guys out there, Baines and Cantor, who could be available that are only $5 million. And the fact that centers just aren't being valued as much anymore. I just don't think a team's going to take on that much.
And that's where that would hold up this deal. It just have to be like the Clippers saying like, okay, we don't care about the money. We want like the best option available because we're gunning for a championship. Let's like Hassan Whiteside. We can get him. We can also get a first-round pick back for him, and we can also get a backup guard. Like, it'd have to take them like valuing Whiteside over other options out there, which I think they might. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell like how much teams would value Whiteside. You know, how many think, oh, he's just putting up those empty stats, and how many people would look like, oh, he's leading the league in blocks. If you combined, Kawhi and Paul George's perimeter defense with a rim protector like that, like, you know what I mean? So just kind of, that would be what decides the deal. You know what I mean? But like, I feel like it'd be possible, and for us to get back a young backup center to put behind Nurkic, to get back a $16 million or so trade player exception, to get back $11 million in $11 to $12 million expiring contract next year, as well as duck the tax. That's a byproduct of this, duck the tax. I don't know. That would be a good option. I would be very happy with that, even if we give up a first round pick to the Clippers in this deal. So that substitute in different teams, like we can be creative and create a bigger traded player exception. You know, it might look a little different. Probably, you know, wouldn't get back a center the level of Zubac, but
I think the fate of that trade was sealed the first time we played the Clippers, and Zubac destroyed Whiteside in the first half of that game, and the TNT crew went off about how Whiteside was stealing money from us and all that stuff. I'm not saying Zubac is better than Whiteside, but from the Clippers' perspective,
no,
like,
see, that's
not only are they downgrading from Zubac to Whiteside in their opinion, but they are also taking on all that money.
But basically, here's the template, you know. Here's the template is a team wanting to save some money next year, so wanting to get out from a 2-year contract, you know, so like Snell here. And like a team trading them some assets or whatever. Like the thing is, if they didn't trade Galloway, if they were like, say they were $10 million under the tax, Snell would match Harkless and Magruder here. The only problem is they're like really close to the tax. But just like the template that I'm talking about, guys, is you have this team. Detroit is the team. Let's just call them Team C. They want out from a 2-year contract. That 2-year contract to us. Okay, they get back, you know, $15 million or so from this team, right? And then that team would trade out a player making like $7 million or so to us, which we absorb with the Bazemore traded player exception. And by trading out, you know, $15 million here and like around $7 million here, they could take on Whiteside. Since we take on this $7 million or so with the Bazemore exception, we'd get a traded player exception. That'd be the difference between Whiteside and whatever this 2-year contract is. So then we get a big traded player exception, like $15 million or so, and then we get an expiring contract next year, and we duck the tax. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, does that make sense to you? Am I explaining that well?
Yeah. There's all kinds of possibilities at Detroit, but they're like $3,000 away from going to the tax too, so it sucks. That's another team I wish we had Bazemore to trade for a Snell and Rose. I don't know if that's better than having Ariza or not, but yeah. Jake Curry brings up a good point that Whiteside probably wouldn't be on the floor in a series in the fourth quarter versus the Lakers or Mavs.
This doesn't even have to be a contender. You know what I mean? Like, we can trade it. Just a team that has money to throw around, doesn't value anything they're trading out. If they got like a second round pick or two and then just bought out Whiteside, you know, then they might do this if they were under the tax, you know, for example. I don't know. It could be like a different combination where maybe this is like New York and they're sending out $15 million, and that's Marcus Morris to a team that's trading them up first. You know what I mean? And then we're sending them Whiteside in order to get a 2-year contract from the team getting Marcus Morris, and to like just, I don't know. Like the template, it can work with like different teams. Like it can work with a rebuilding team getting Whiteside and just getting like a couple second round picks and then buying them out, you know, just has the incentive to take on Whiteside. And this could be a good team getting something good from this team. It's just like the template in terms of the way salaries could match up to create a big traded player exception. Like if we used our Bazemore traded player exception and like constructed everything else in a way to, what was that not on the screen? I don't know if that was on the screen. We could just be creative to.
You know, it would be frustrating though. Let's say we had a $27 million trade exception, and you got like Cat and Otto Porter making just over that amount, so we couldn't trade. Yeah, that would be kind of frustrating. So maybe it'd be better to take. Like, would you rather have a trade exception, or would you rather have Batum where you could add salary to it, or you know, take 125%.
That's kind of why I like the idea of like the second trade I had with this one right here with Snell and getting like a $60 million trade player exception, because you can attach Snell's expiring to Ariza's expiring and pretty much match Cat. Like that would be 12.8. That'd be 20.
When you say this one right here, are you actually trying to show us something, or are you just?
Is it not on the screen?
No, none of
It's
these
on the
things
screen.
have ever
It's on the
shown.
screen. It's just delayed. Yeah, no. Have I not showed anything?
No, I'm live. I've not seen a single
Why did
thing
you
other
tell
than your
me,
face.
bro? Why did you
Well, I
tell
didn't.
me?
It wasn't obvious that you were trying to show it.
Crap, I've been showing stuff the whole time, but it was stuck on like the scene before, and I didn't transition with it because it's just like the new software.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So, crap. I wish you told me. All right, so this was the trade I was talking about. With this is the last trade I was talking about. I already did the first trade too that I was talking about, guys. Crap. But so this was the one with like Snell to us. Okay, let me go back through this. All right.
I don't think
If you understand what I'm saying, you might see what I'm talking about here. All right, it's complicated, but like, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna go back through it. But like if we,
it's not generating much buzz in the chat. So.
Yeah, well, probably because it wasn't on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crap, man. Crap. Anyway, so I like this trade.
It's on the screen now.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me know.
I mean, like, it doesn't. Even if we're getting back a player making $7 million who isn't that good, you know what I mean? That's why I like this trade because we could get back like this would be $12 million expiring next year. Ariza would be at $13 million or so that'd be $25 million outgoing. So then we could match Karl-Anthony Towns, right? We do lose some wings, but then we'd still have a $15.7 million traded player exception to like add guys like after adding a guy like Cat. You know what I mean?
Realistic trades NBA. Yeah, I tell him that all the time, but he never listens to me. So
what?
Use tradenba.com because you can.
It glitches for me.
Include
glitches for me, bro.
You can use picks. You can have the trade exceptions. It works on there. All that stuff. So it's so much easier, and it tells you right up top, like how much a team's under the tax and what the result will be after the trade.
I mean, I'll have to. I just tried to use it once and it was glitchy, so I haven't even tried. But Jake, that's a template. Okay, I was trying to explain a template there. All right, don't focus on like, oh, that team wouldn't value Whiteside as much. There's like multiple teams that you could like substitute in where trades might make sense, where you could trade salary in a way to make a $60 million trade player exception, and that might not be out there. I'm just saying like there is the possibility to create bigger traded player exceptions, and in a way that makes sense. Like I want a $60 million trade player exception with like $11 million contract that's expiring next season, so we could attach that to Ariza and we could match salary and then still have a trade player exception. Or if we wanted a player making less than that $60 million, we wouldn't have to trade anybody. You know what I mean? So just like that type of flexibility, I want to increase our future flexibility, if that makes sense. So that's why I don't want to keep Whiteside. I want to be able to set ourselves up to make a move in the future that could help us contend, and getting back a big trade player exception alongside a expiring contract next year. That makes sense, guys. I mean, it's not I don't know.
So I don't think you really answered my question. Would you rather have a $25 million trade exception or Batum?
I just did. I'd rather have in between that. Okay. If that makes sense. I'd rather have like a $12 million 2-year contract and then like a traded player exception. But if
well, see, I'd rather have two $12 million players. Like say, I know this isn't really possible. Like say you had Zeller and Snell or something, because then you could combine them to make a $25 million trade, or trade them individually to get those mid-range targets that we can't get this year because we don't have anyone to trade.
The thing is, a team might not want back salary. So having one $12 million contract and then like a $15 million trade player exception, if you were trying to get a guy that makes less than $15 million that that team didn't want salary back, say they're close to the tax or over the tax or something, then you could, that would be helpful in that situation. So that's why I want one each. That would also save money this year and get Jody under the tax as well, since instead of getting back two $12 million contracts, you only get back one, and then the trade player exception doesn't count towards the luxury tax. So, yeah.
Clay says you're playing more defense right now than Portland did tonight.
Man.
That's funny.
Man, because like dude's kidding with me. I thought dude was serious, telling me to stop as if I'm not speaking. I don't know.
I think the stop was to not go back through it again.
No, no, I know. You know,
It was fine the
I don't
first
need to. I don't
time,
need to
but
re-explain that. It just sucks because it's like you guys would
yeah.
have a lot better chance of understanding what I'm talking about if you guys could have seen what I was talking about. So, that was the last thing I'll explain again. But yeah, you're right. I shouldn't re-explain that because that's a lot to explain anyway. So, Clyde's that like would be like accomplishing so much, like a trade like that. That's why it's my template. Get under the tax, get a trade player exception, get an expiring contract that we can trade this summer, attached to a Ariza this summer and at the trade deadline next year, for like a player like that would pretty much match salary for almost any player in the league. And that wouldn't use up the trade player exception, so we just have like a lot of flexibility compared to just having a Ariza. That's what happens if we keep a Whiteside and let Whiteside walk, is we'd only have Ariza. We wouldn't have a trade player exception. We wouldn't have that additional expiring contract next year. That's why I don't think we should keep Whiteside, so that he can be a backup center so we can get the 8th seed. You know, that's why I think that's a bad move. Yep. It all ties back in. We're priming you guys for the trade deadline. We're preparing you guys. We're
preparing them for you to go on a rant.
You'll go on a rant too, though, won't you? You said you would. Don't back out.
I said I would if we made no trades before the Bazemore trade.
Oh, boo.
We did make one
trade. So
you're
not going to rant if we don't do anything else. You ranted about the Bazemore trade. Why wouldn't you rant if we don't do anything else?
I will be mad, but I mean, at this point,
we want to rant, though.
It's kind of like a foregone conclusion that we're not going to.
But I mean, like that's not based off any like factual report. You know, I've heard 50-50 from like, I think that was from Woj. You know what I mean? That was recent. I don't know. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I feel like that's a lot of fans that feel. I don't know. I kind of get that vibe too, but it's still like enough of a possibility that I'm gonna be mad if we don't trade Whiteside. So, McTory GM, you're brilliant. Hey man, I could. That's the thing. I could try and be creative. Obviously, you know, it's not as simple as like snapping my fingers and make stuff happen. But I know the CBA well enough to like be able to be creative enough to. I don't know. You know what I mean? I confuse myself sometimes with it, but I just think we need a creative GM. You know. Thing is, I can't tell what Olshey declines or accepts, but I think there's something out there that is possible for us to get creative and increase future flexibility that could set us up well in the future. I think there will be something out there, so if it doesn't happen, I feel like I'll be justified in ranting at Olshey.
So, Clays, how do we accomplish that, though? Like, we've gone over like pretty much every team in every scenario. Now that Dallas doesn't have as big of a trade exception and doesn't need a center quite as bad, it kind of takes away some opportunity for them to take salary in a multi-team trade. There's just not a lot of options to trade Whiteside for less salary going back in and for it to make sense for the other team as well. I'm really having a tough time coming up with scenarios that will allow us to do that.
Yeah.
And I know we could do like what you were saying, but like I don't see the other teams doing those trades. And then
the Pistons is that scenario. I would definitely see them doing it. You know, a team trying to get out from a 2-year contract that has like, you know, if they don't, I don't know. See, the thing is, if it's like a team that is under the tax, so let's just hop back really quick, just because I'm talking a hypothetical, it'll be easier for you guys to see. If this team's under the tax, then they don't have to, you know, they can send out, you know, a bad $12 million a year contract and take back like $60 million in expirings and be fine. In that case, this team wouldn't have to take on $7 million, so they would only be gaining like $5 to $6 million in salary, if that makes sense. There's like ways you can work around it where we can still create that big traded player exception, if that makes sense. The only reason Clippers are taking on more here is because Detroit would go into the tax unless they lost salary. So
one of the teams that could do that just kind of screwed that up today with Atlanta, because they could have made something work with their expiring contracts, but
I still don't think that screwed it. I still think they saved money today.
But we have the problem with not aggregating salary.
They
So
updated this already? They updated it already with Clint Capela. So what was your whole idea, though?
You mean with
Yeah,
Atlanta
with
or
Atlanta.
what? Well, back when they had like Crab and stuff, you could do Crab and Len or something for Hazonia and Whiteside. Obviously, you probably have to throw at
No, it'd
least
have
a
to be
couple
like
seconds in there.
Parsons.
But
So yeah, that doesn't work. But
yeah, Minnesota, when they had Teague, could have combined Teague with someone, and they're far enough below. Um, but yeah, now like half their roster isn't combinable. Um, Chicago could probably get there, but they don't have. It would have to be like a bunch of players, so it's like hard to make a deal work with them to get under the tax without another team taking on someone. But yeah, if the goal was just to get under the tax, it's tough, man. I don't really
I
know
mean,
how to.
yeah,
You have to basically do like a trade, like trying to think of an example, but like trade. You almost have to do a more expensive or the same trade and then trade those for like two players and then trade those players for ones that are making less, if that makes sense. So like trade a like do just for example Hornets for Marvin Williams and um, MKG, and then trade MKG for someone making like 10 million and Marvin Williams for someone making like 11 million, and then you save 7
yeah,
million that way.
yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to like come up with scenarios where the contracts work perfectly from all teams involved right now. And that's why I was saying earlier that it was easier to do that when we had Bazemore's contract as well to possibly
Yeah.
throw in trades. But
I'm just kind of looking around here.
first P asked, what's more valuable, a 2-year contract or a 3-year?
2 year.
Well, if you're just talking about like average players, that's probably correct. If you're talking about like Robert Covington was more valuable because he's locked up on a great deal for 2 more years instead of just 1 more year. So the fact that he had 3 years on his contract at like $11-12 million made him more valuable. But like if Tony Snell, who makes 11 million next year or 12 million or something, had a 3rd year on his contract, he'd pretty much be untradeable because no one would want that 3rd year on his contract.
So here's another trade kind of fitting that template. Because I've seen like Whiteside for Marvin Williams and Cody Zeller suggested, so it's kind of working off that. Maybe you have to give 2nd round picks to New Orleans. I don't know. It's New Orleans just kind of a filler team because I knew they had a $7 million contract. But say New Orleans has like a lot of wings, right? And if they're trying to make a playoff run, Darius Miller's out for the year. He's a guy who's unguaranteed next year though, so we could just cut him. But say, they wanted to swap, so this guy doesn't even matter. Say they wanted to swap Etuan Moore for Marvin Williams to get more in the front court. They're kind of equal players. I think Williams is a little bit better. And if, Charlotte wanted, Whiteside for Cody Zeller and Marvin Williams, then you could do this. It's questionable with the other teams. This is just to show like another type of deal that fits the template. Basically, Portland would absorb Darius Miller with the trade exception and then get a $12.6 million traded player exception between Whiteside and Zeller, while Darius Miller is absorbed with the Bazemore traded player exception. I think Charlotte would still stay under the tax here. Yeah, they'd still stay under the tax. They'd be like $1.5 million under the tax at $7.5 million, but they've been rumored for a center, so maybe they'd be interested in Whiteside. You know what I'm saying? That's just like another example of the template.
It would have been easier when they're a little closer to the playoffs.
True.
They've kind of fallen out a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like examples.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying like a lot of my trades involve Charlotte too, wanting Whiteside perhaps for free and then having his bird rights at least. Yeah. So Clay's brought up doing like Marvin Williams or Bismack Biyombo and a filler contract from without making this a three-way trade. I'm just going to see. The problem is they have MKG at 13 million, and then their next contract goes down to 4.2 million for Malik Monk. So
I mean, it'd make more sense to make it a three-way. You'd still have to make it a three-way trade at that point. Because they don't have the salaries that match up. But I mean, this gets us a bigger traded player exception if New Orleans wanted Biyombo instead of Marvin Williams, and it still keeps Charlotte under the tax.
We're just talking about Whiteside for Biyombo and one other contract.
I know. I'm just kind of throwing in different contracts here. That still get us under the tax.
All right, so that works, but see, this would be really close. So if we had a team that wanted Malik Monk, maybe Dallas, if they're interested in who are they rumored to? Alec Burks. Maybe they want Malik Monk instead of Alec Burks and are willing to give up the Golden State second rounder for him. They could absorb Monk, and we could trade Hazonia and Whiteside for Biyombo and Hernan Gomez, and that would get us approximately $4 million under the tax.
So basically,
you're trading Whiteside and Hazonia for Biyombo and Hernan Gomez.
I accidentally put Biyombo to Dallas here, Biyombo to Portland, and then Monk to Dallas.
Yeah,
that'd work. And we'd create a $10.1 million trade player exception. Thing is, Biyombo's expiring though, but he would be a backup center, and Hazonia too.
Well, you could take the step further, like I was saying, and trade. Then you trade Biyombo. I don't know what this would take, but you trade Biyombo and, or you could make a part of a three-way trade. So Biyombo would go to like Detroit, and then you could get Snell and Rose, or they'd have to give up one. They'd have to give up another contract so they weren't going below or above the tax line.
Oh,
but
like so.
But you give up like a high second for that, and then you get Snell and someone else. Maybe it's just Galloway or something.
Like that would be great if like Galloway was making $7 million, and we could absorb him with the Bazemore trade player exception. Then we'd create a $16 million one there.
Yeah, because and then we could do Snell and Snell and Galloway. Galloway fits into the.
No, he doesn't.
Our trade exception, doesn't he? Oh no, he's 7.3.
That's the problem with him. Maybe instead of
we could do Thonmaker
what about this? Galloway to Dallas. They can absorb him with the trade player exception and stay under the tax. Then Monk to Detroit, and then we take on Markieff. What about that? So Detroit's getting back $21 million. They're sending out 7.3. That's 10.5. They're sending out 21.9 and getting back 21, so they stay under the tax. They get back Monk, which is like a young player. Charlotte's still giving up and getting back the same, and Dallas is just getting Galloway instead of Monk.
Wait, what? I don't think. Oh no, they are. Yeah, they're sending it on this. Never mind. Um. Yeah. I don't. What would that? Would they do that?
With who?
Would Detroit do that?
I think they. Oh, Detroit would do that in a heartbeat. Detroit would 100%.
They get Monk for Snell and Morris and
Yeah, they
Galloway.
get out from Snell's contract. They get back on expiring and a
Yeah.
young guard who I think they were interested in when he was in the draft. They don't go over the tax. They get a center replacement for Drummond if they trade him out. I don't know. I think they do this in a heartbeat because I don't know. Like, I don't think they really care how much they get back for Morris. Morris hasn't been that good. And like they don't have really much value. So
Yeah.
if you can get back a young player and get out from Snell's contract, I think Detroit would do that.
So we get like a 15 or 16 million trade exception, a
A backup big
center that can just replace Whiteside, not fully replace
Yeah.
him, but like just have a center on the roster, and we get a Morris that could help fill our rotation.
I think it would be questionable with Charlotte. Would they want to give up Monk? Like, they don't care about Hazonia and, like, Biombo upgrading him to Whiteside. They wouldn't need Biombo, but who knows how much they
Well,
want Whiteside. That's the questionable part there.
that's why I had Monk going to Dallas because they probably give up a second, the Golden State second to take on Monk.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this situation, I don't think they would give up a second. They would just
Well,
absorb, or like a worse second, I guess.
I mean, I think the pick would come from us instead since we're getting such a big trade player exception. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So we give them our second.
Or you do Rose to Dallas and Monk to Detroit and see if
Ooh.
uh
But you've heard that. Here's another one. Rose. Detroit wants a lottery pick for Rose.
I mean, but if they get out from that contract and get back Monk, maybe they'd settle for and then
The Golden State
the
pick.
Golden State second round pick. I think Dallas
See,
would do that.
This is why you need to use Trade NBA because all the second rounders are on there.
TradeNBA.com.
Yeah. I don't know how fast it's going to go on your stream, but
So where do I go? Trade Machine?
yeah, there's like a link on it.
I did. This is what I'm talking about. This site's glitchy for me. Fire up the Trade Machine, please.
Well, I think there's like a million people on the trade machines right now.
Probably. But this is the problem I got before. I got this problem a month ago. Do I have to do it in Chrome?
I don't know. Like sometimes it's slow for me, but I mean I'm on there right now.
Oh, you can look through trade proposals?
Oh, dude, don't waste your
I
time.
just want to find a Portland one.
They're all. Oh, you can sort by team.
Let's do it, bro.
Just hit newest trades.
Let's get.
hit newest trades. It's all like Dame and CJ for like crap. But hit newest trades if you haven't already.
I'm on a trade of that you'll see in a second.
But if you go to the top, you can go to the top.
Yeah. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
You can
just found
sort
a
by
Karl
team.
Anthony Towns trade.
Whiteside and Hazonia for Layman and
Okay, so what the
see it.
what
Yeah,
the hell?
there's no.
Are you looking at the one I'm looking at, the Sixers one?
No, I'm on the
Okay.
Blazers.
It's Spurs
Bulls one.
trade LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and Patrick Mills. 76ers trade Joel Embiid. We get those guys, right? But then we trade the Spurs Damian Lillard and Hassan Whiteside, and we trade the Sixers CJ McCollum. That's gross.
Is People's Mix coming up with these?
Oh, here's one where we. Okay, here's like the one that
That's the only bad thing about trade NBA. It's like this on
Yeah,
ESPN too, as well, but they don't have the players ineligible to be traded.
gotcha.
So like Dame
That's the
can't.
one thing Trade Machine have
Yeah,
on them.
yeah.
What?
I'm just reading chat. Chief and TF is this first fee
I like going through these. I
what?
think the chat's a little delayed because I think it made it normal latency instead of like low. So like the chat's more delayed than normal, which sucks. But
Yeah.
God.
I told you it was all like crap. What is this? Okay,
D'Angelo
the
Russell,
Hawks.
Jacob Evanson, Glenn Robinson for Damian Lillard.
See,
This is comically bad, bro. What the hell?
almost all the trades on here are like it's either a Blazer fan, so it's like waste like in our favor, or it's not a
Yeah,
Blazer fan, so it's like
I found an
awful.
example of that. There's one where we trade out Hassan Whiteside and get back Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks get Avery
Oh
Bradley,
yeah,
Hassan Whiteside. Heat get Danny Green and KCP, and the Lakers get Jimmy Butler. Like, I don't know. People
yeah.
just
We're gonna trade Dame for D'Angelo Russell and Jacob Evans.
God. Here's one that like kind of makes sense, I guess. It's Whiteside and that's gross though. Whiteside in the first round pick for Julius Randle and Frank Ntilikina. What the hell? Why is there a picture of? I don't even know what that is.
This is so annoying because
I'm not.
like chats behind in your voice
Yeah.
too, but I'm hearing your voice live
No,
and watching
I
the
know.
stream
It's
that's
annoying.
not live.
It's
So
like not as live as normal. Yeah, it sucks.
I'm the only one that's having this issue, but
It sucks. That's just how it is with the new stream. Yeah, it is on normal latency because I just hit resume and it automatically made a new stream with normal latency. So, but
see, Chief and I think Cat could play power forward with Nurkic.
Cat's already a bad defender. You just get Cat
Yeah,
and think like, okay, we can be a top 3 offense in the league, and then
yeah.
hopefully like we have like a spurt of good defense when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I still like this 4-team trade we were coming up with Rose to Dallas, Monk. I wish I could do it on here though. Maybe if I put. This is the problem I had with it, man. This is why I don't use it. The trade machine doesn't even pop up. I just put in trade machine add team 1. It won't even let me add a team. I'm on the page now, but it won't even let me add a team. And I'm on my good computer. Like, so.
Yeah. I'm in there. I don't
know. Maybe I have to do it in Chrome. Just.
Maybe.
Chrome. So, you still there? Did I just hang up on him? I just hung up, bro. I just hung up on Eric. All right, you guys are gonna, or maybe he glitched out. I'll mute that for you guys. Did I just hang up on you?
I think so.
My bad. I didn't know. I don't know why that hung up.
So
I was minimizing stuff and I accidentally hit the X button on Skype. Okay. TradeNBA.com. All right, let's see if it works in Chrome. Okay, it works in Chrome. Cool. Okay, so you had Portland. You had Detroit. This is where I wish we had like fans of these fan bases. Like sort out a 4-team trade everybody would do. You had Dallas. Why am I struggling here? Dallas. You have who's the other 2 teams I had in that? Detroit and Charlotte. Okay, Detroit and okay. So you got Rose to Dallas.
Clay's. I had the perfect Otto Porter trade that got us under the tax line, but it required Bazemore to do too. That's why. Alex Wolf really wants us to bet a candy necklace. Have to eat a candy necklace on.
That's kind of strange, but like we do
really
it for the entertainment value. But hearing somebody say they really want us to do it is a little.
He didn't say that. He just always asks when we're doing. Anyways, I still think Tori should have to complete his bet before we agree to another bet.
Yeah.
Let me on, dude. Why does Portland need to take on more salary?
Are you asking me that or Chad that?
I'm asking. Let me on, dude. In chat. Alex Wolf says he's a Cavs fan.
Oh, we'll have trade deadline covered for you. So if you want a place to watch the trade deadline, we're really smart with the CBA and like keep you up to date on trade rumors and stuff. We'll be doing that like going live 4 hours before the trade deadline. So even though we're a Blazers channel, we got you covered on the entire NBA.
How bummed were you when the Hawks won at the last minute? What? What are you talking about? I'm not sure what that means. Do I like Miles Bridges? He's okay. From what I've heard, Charlotte overvalues him too much to make a trade reasonable for him. Let me on, dude. It doesn't matter how much salary's coming in as long as the salary outgoing works for all the other teams involved. So you can take back 16 and have 28 going out if it works for the other 4 teams involved, or 3 teams. That's why we're trying to come up with a trade where it makes sense for all the teams to do this.
And then let me maybe do. All right. Here's that trade you were talking about. I have it on the screen, so it will take a little bit to show up for you.
He meant the Chiefs. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, man.
In the stream.
Come on, man. Ow, man. I'm not trying to hear about that. Thanks for making me depressed. Appreciate it.
It was a great game until the fourth quarter happened.
Oh, man. Until you jinxed us, bro. Eric.
Yeah, it was totally my fault.
No, I know it's not. I'm just giving you crap. But Eric texted me. He was like, they can't come back every game, right? And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, yes, they can come back every game. Thanks for saying that.
That was a question. I didn't say.
You just don't even put that into the universe, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's something you don't even put into the universe.
You know what I'm mad about? I'm so mad that it didn't put money on the Chiefs to win at the end of the third quarter as a live bet on the Oregon app. Because then at least I would have been like, well, fuck, at least I won money. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to
No, you're fine. It's almost midnight. You could have waited 3 more minutes and then been free reign. No, you're good. We're talking about the damn Super Bowl, so let me block this guy on Twitter. All right. Oh, this guy that just said, "Oh, 3 of you are garbage," like talking about me and I don't know who else, but yeah, just blocked him. So trade on the screen for you. All right. So what do you think about this?
Yeah. Do you think Dallas wants Rose?
I mean, no, but maybe. Like, Luka can play small forward. He doesn't have to play point guard. Yeah. Like, they have, you know what I mean? Like, they don't need to upgrade the wing. They can upgrade just any perimeter spot, and they have, like, the positional flexibility to work around that. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Clay says we need to trade out more.
In this?
More than a second, he said. What would you give up our lottery protected first in this deal?
Well, okay. So like, who is this trade not enough for involving the Mavericks, Hornets, and Pistons?
I think they're saying the Hornets. And Chief, and yes, we understand that Snell is not that good of a player, but that's not
the
point of making a trade like this.
The point is he'd be a $12 million expiring contract next year, and we'd get a almost $16 million traded player exception.
That second round pick for the Pistons is the Golden State one, which is currently like 31 or 32.
And then they get Monk, which is like a young player back who they have reportedly had some interest in, I think, on the
especially if they trade Kennard, then they have a spot open for Monk too if they did that other trade with Phoenix.
I honestly think this would be a relatively good package for the Pistons because all like the contenders are going to be trading picks in the 20s, so why not get 131 and then take a chance on like on a guy who was a lottery pick, who I still think has the potential to be good, just needs to put it together. You know, he hasn't been good so far, but he's still very young. I think he's still 21 years old, you know, and I think the Detroit values him. I think you could possibly get Detroit to do this. I think
you could maybe justify that as like you're not getting a lottery pick for Rose, but you're getting a player that was a lottery pick.
And then you're getting like the 31st pick, the like basically the best second round pick possible, the first pick of the second round. They also get rid of Snell too. That's a part of this deal that matters too. Is they get rid of his contract, so they save money there. They save like $7 million going from him to Monk.
Clay says the Hornets getting nothing. The Whiteside's a good center for them.
Yeah, I mean, like they'd have to want Whiteside, but they've reportedly wanted a center. They want to like get better, and I could see them giving up on Monk. And basically, if they get Whiteside, they don't care about losing these guys. You know what I mean? They'd have Zeller as a backup center who could maybe slide over to the 4 here and there. So like basically, they'd just be trading Monk for Whiteside, essentially.
Yeah.
So. They might not do that, but if they want to get better, if they want to upgrade the center position, which they've been rumored to do, and they've been rumored to like be willing to move on from Malik Monk, like that's a trade that might work out for them. I think if you're Dallas, if you're able to get a player this good for a second round pick, like that second round pick, I think you do it. They've been rumored to want Burks. Why not just get Rose and play Doncic more at the forward spot? You know, like. That Rose is a much better player. I don't know. They'd have like Rose and Brunson as their point guards. Rose could maybe play some small ball 2. Doncic would just be primarily like a 2 or a 3 or a small ball 4 or whatever. Like Doncic can play like multiple positions. So you just work the roster around that. So I don't know. This could be. Damn. I think this is as reasonable as you can get for a 4-team trade. I muted you, bro, because that was your phone popping off.
All right, I was keeping muted for a second.
All right.
Never mind.
You can mute yourself.
Yeah.
Ow. Rest in peace to chat. All right, I muted you. You done? Okay. What the hell is that?
Well, I'm at the store.
Oh, are you?
And,
damn.
Someone, I wasn't expecting someone to call it midnight.
What the hell? Yeah, but anyway, I think that's as reasonable. Oh, where's it at?
It's I'm at my business, Chief, and not the.
I think this is as reasonable as a 4-team trade as you can find. You know.
Yeah, I mean there might be some different teams and some different players involved, but overall,
you can get creative. You can get creative and make stuff happen. Daryl Morey has shown that. You know,
I truly believe that they're not even considering these type of moves right now. They're
ridiculous.
They just want.
Because you'd still be able to compete. You get Nurkic back and healthy. Collins can play some backup center. You'd be fine at that position. And if somebody gets hurt, you have Whitley Hernangomez, who's not horrible. He can be like an okay backup. You have Markieff Morris back too. I mean, maybe you'd buy him out, but like he could be a okay backup, power forward or center. So you'd have more than enough depth at that position. You just have Scout coming back. At the 4, you'd have like Collins and Mello, and like Morris can slide over there. Like you'd have so much depth at that position. Yeah, you wouldn't have like as great of a backup center, right? For like 20 minutes a game in the playoffs, because I think at that point Nurkic will be getting like 27, 28 minutes per game, and I think he'll be worth 27, 28 minutes per game. So yeah, 20 minutes per game of the backup center might be a little bit worse, but you set yourselves up much better for the future because you get like a $16 million traded player exception, and you get a $12 million expiring contract that you can trade on draft night or during the trade deadline next year, and you get under the tax by you get under the tax by like $6 million. Lot.
Yeah. And this would possibly open up to, because I think we'd be under enough to take on an Aaron Baines or a Cantor or something if they wanted to ditch those guys, and still be under the tax. So
only problem with that is Morris doesn't fit under anything but the Bazemore exception. So you'd have like $4 million left under that exception.
Right.
But I mean, $4 million left, you can still make something happen. I don't know.
I guess you could do that.
I think maybe you'd try and get Morris offload, because you wouldn't even really need Morris. So you'd see if there's a team out there that'd be willing to take him. Maybe you give them cash considerations, and it's to a team that has cap space, and then they just. I think he's on a team option for next year. I don't know. Maybe they buy him out if he's.
I think it's a player option, which would probably decline.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, you could maybe offload him, and then we'd still have that Bazemore trade player exception on top of the $60 million trade player exception.
Actually, would Morris for Bazemore work straight up? Or not Morris for Baines. Does that work? Because 3.2 to 5. How much is Baines making? Like 5.1 or something?
I don't.
That comes.
Oh yeah, because they'd be under the tax. Oh yeah. That should. Let me do the math. 3.2 times 1.75 plus 0.1. Let me look up how much Baines is making.
Clay says 5.5. So
yeah, that would work actually. You could trade Morris for Baines straight up. You know, like, so you could match up to 5.7 million and stay under the tax.
Or Phoenix might actually do that too. Like, that doesn't seem like
bring
too
back
unreasonable.
Morris though. Don't they hate him there?
He hated it there when they traded his brother after they both signed for cheap. But who knows?
Maybe
That's
give up
several
a
years
2020 second round pick. If I don't know what they want for Baines, but I don't know. Yeah, you could be like creative and look to swap Morris for some. You'd have the space to like swap Morris for somebody, make Morris stay under the cap. I don't know.
So there we go. Realistic Trades NBA in the chat is saying this is so perfect for dumping salary, but probably the reality is cruel, which I agree with. It kind of sucks that we're trying to resort to this, but he's saying Trailblazers try to upgrade the team rather than lower salary. Lillard is in his best time now,
right.
And the problem, we keep bringing this up every time, that if you keep Whiteside.
Well, first off, start off with this. There's not like a obvious upgrade available for us. There's not really much available right now. So, as you were saying, if we keep Whiteside.
If we keep Whiteside, yes, it might be a little better this year than a trade like we just mentioned. Probably for sure better this year.
But we're staring at the 8th seed regardless.
But after this year, even if you get the 8th seed, upset the Lakers in the first round, lose in the second round, or make a deep run, whatever, lose in the first round, whatever happens, if you don't win a title this year, then you're basically saying that you are going to instead possibly ruin Dame's prime all the years after this one, versus just saying, you know what, this season just wasn't meant to be. Let's try to do it next season instead. And that's what all these moves are designed for. They're not meant to increase the talent this year. Yes, it would be great in a perfect world. We trade Whiteside, get a talent upgrade that both helped us this year and next year. That's why we're so high on like an Otto Porter trade, because it has the best of both worlds, where we have a huge expiring contract next year if it doesn't work. But if it does work out, in a perfect scenario, he's a plus 40% 3-point shooter, a decent defender, and would mesh well with our team. But like, there's not many scenarios where we get players back that help us this year. We duck the tax, and it helps us in future years where we can help Dame in his prime. Like, I just don't know how that's possible to do all these things at once.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, saving money there, it's not, the move saves money, but like the move is made so that we could create a big traded player exception. Which we'd save money as a byproduct of creating a big traded player exception, but creating that big traded player exception would help us upgrade the team in the future. So it would be helping us get the asset needed to upgrade the team in the future when more is available, and as a byproduct, we'd also save money. This kind of goes hand in hand. Trade deadline stream schedule, gonna podcast tomorrow. We'll cover trade talk then. Probably stream tomorrow evening, and then stream in the morning, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that on Thursday. If my hours are messed up, I'll have to pull an all-nighter, but that'll be fine. Like, whatever, I'll just sleep after the trade deadline. But I want to be live like 3 to 4 hours before the trade deadline on Thursday, and cover stuff as it rolls in. And I'll tell Eric, if anything like big rolls in, to just call me. Like Thursday morning, if I'm like gonna like sleep until then, I don't know, I'll like try and get some sleep, and then if anything big's to have him call me, I'll get the shot of adrenaline, from the trade, and I'll be awake, and then we can go live right when something big hits.
I have to. I got someone to watch the little one, so I don't have to worry about her on Thursday because I was going to be home with her, but it's going to be like around 9, so I probably 9 o'clock is when I can go on.
Yeah, that's probably going to be like a 4-hour stream.
Yeah.
3, or maybe even 5. I don't know if I go live earlier. I'll just tell you to call me. You don't even have to come on, but like if something happens at 8 a.m. Like in Portland trades us on Whiteside for Giannis or something. Yeah.
And then, of course, that schedule is always scheduled to change if a big trade like what happened tonight happens and we want to talk about it.
Yeah. Do we even sleep? Sometimes.
I don't sleep very much.
Yeah.
Sucks. But, I mean, even if I wasn't doing these streams, I wouldn't sleep that much because, my little one doesn't sleep very well. She's up super early, doesn't stay in bed all night. So, yeah.
Pat Connaughton in the dunk contest. I mean, if they weren't going to put Anthony Simons in the dunk contest, then Pat Connaughton's kind of cool to see in the dunk contest. We'll see what he can do, though. I don't feel like he's a dunk contest type of dunker.
No.
All right, peace out, Chiefin.
Later, Chiefin. Henry M. is pretty confident that your dream will come true. Whiteside will be traded.
I'm not confident, man. I want more rumors. that one trade got me ready for more trades, but...
Yeah. It'll be interesting what New York does.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys covered.
And I wonder if this trade kind of breaks the seal.
I hope so, man. I want some action.
Because now that Covington's gone, that was a big wing that a lot of teams are going after. So now you'd think that the teams that missed out on him that were really going for it this year would be looking at Iguodala now. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what else happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping Portland does something, man.
Hey, Alex, maybe ask that question on Thursday to Tori after we done trade.
What was it?
He said, where would you guys rank Olshey in regards to all of their NBA GMs?
Man, this is a...
If he doesn't...
Yeah. God, man. Okay, so I'm tired of JP's perspective. Bro, like, I'm tired of people that ask questions about why people would want Otto Porter, but they literally don't try and, like, understand. Like, why are you asking the question of why people would want Otto Porter? Because JP's perspective tweeted out on Twitter, Otto Porter, ? I will never understand why people think he's worth $27 million a year. I would rather have Ariza over him. Plus, he's hurt. Blazers are covered in that area. But like the reasons why Otto Porter would be a good candidate is that he's a $27 million expiring next year, so that if he's still hurt, he could still help us upgrade in ways that we wouldn't have the flexibility to do. But like you try and explain that, this dude, first off, we're blocked. Second off, I guarantee you, if we weren't blocked and we actually said that to him, he would ignore it and still ask the same questions.
How did you read it then? Were you on your other account?
Yeah. Yeah, because I am blocked on my main account. My new main account, whatever. It's just annoying.
So, I'll try to answer Alex's question. He's obviously not in the top tier, like, championship. Like, we got Ujiri, Myers for Golden State. I know he's not technically the GM, but Jerry West, you can't argue with his success. I don't know if he's much. I wouldn't really probably put Donnie Nelson up there because they won a championship and now they made moves to get Doncic. Trying to think who else would be up there. Pritchard's done a pretty good job with Indiana. Whoever, I don't know the name of Milwaukee's GM. But you've got to put him up there. Whoever's calling the shots there. Especially if it's still the same person who drafted Giannis. Kind of blanking on Utah's GM, Dennis. What's his... And, of course, the Spurs. I guess Popovich gets credit for that, but who was their longtime GM, R.C. Buford or whatever. I don't think he's there anymore. But Danny Ainge, yeah, you got to put Ainge up there. So how many have I listed? Like 8 or so. But I think I put Olshey right in that next group, like probably around 10 to 13-ish. You can't argue. Most teams in the NBA would probably for sure trade their success in recent years for ours the last 6 years, other than the teams I mentioned that have done better than that. Dennis Lindsay, that's his name. So, yeah, I'd probably put him in that 10 to 13 range, but I guarantee you, like, teams like the Knicks and the Kings and the Timberwolves and all those kind of teams would want the success that we've had under the Olshey Stotts regime and all that stuff. I don't know if you agree with that or not. You seem busy with Twitter.
Yeah, I'm responded. And I was trying to figure out how to make all the characters fit while still saying what I was trying to say. Just trying to educate Dwight Jaynes because JP's perspective, I don't know.
Was Dwight the one saying to get Otto
Dwight's
Porter?
like, isn't Otto Porter... He said, is Porter ever not injured? But, like, Dwight Jaynes was always the one, like, expiring contracts are so important. They're so important. They're so important. So I tweeted back at him. If he's healthy, he's a perfect fit. Small forward / power forward is a 3-and-D guy that shoots 40% from 3. If he's hurt, he's a $27 million expiring next year that we can use to trade for an upgrade that's healthy. Right now, the only expiring over $6 million that we have next year, other than Nurk, CJ, and Dame, is Ariza, and in parentheses, $13 million. So his $27 million doesn't hurt our flexibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and Clays, you mentioned Kaminsky. When you mention him, you gotta also include that they had an offer of 4 first-round picks when the pick came up for Kaminsky, and they wanted Kaminsky more than Boston giving them 4 first, because Boston really wanted Justice Winslow in that draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hornets had that was Cho was their GM, was our our former GM for a year. But yeah, there's a lot of teams like that. And Clay's also brings up a good point about the culture, and Olshay's done it without like taking on bad dudes too. So it's tough to do. So you're just telling Dwight what to tell JP perspectives?
Basically, I'm just trying to educate Dwight. I want to see if he responds. Yeah. Agrees, probably won't, whatever. I'm just putting it out there, man. I'm answering JP's question, but, you know, JP obviously has me blocked, so he won't see it, but not like he'd even put any thought into it anyway. He'd just be like, oh, the stats say he's tweeting again. That's how I imagine his voice. Then he becomes... No matter how he's playing. All right, there we go. Educating the Godfather. Educating JP.
And this is a good time to bring up this thing from Olshay. So, that Evan M guy on Twitter, you know, I don't want to mess this up. Let me go find it and actually read.
You gotta love this time of year when a bunch of people try and play expert about the trade deadline and they just don't know what they're talking about. I feel like that's what this.
No, it wasn't that, but it had to do with Olshay.
Oh. You just have a lot of people that do that. Now you just always laugh at it.
Yeah. Where? Oh, he might have deleted it. No. Oh, so someone asked him about, would it be great if like Olshay went to the Knicks? And he said it would be hilarious, but I think he's self-aware enough to know how much of a disaster he would be there. He wouldn't have a franchise player waiting like Dame and wouldn't have a great coach in Stotts. Two dudes he owes a lot to right now.
What the?
And so I said, you mean the guy who hired that coach and drafted that player?
That's actually a funny response. Did he respond to that?
Yeah. So, see, this pisses me off because, okay, you have hated Olshay in the past, but you don't say crap like, oh, he lucked into getting Nurkic. That was such a lucky move. He didn't even care about getting Nurkic. He got so lucky that Nurk was good.
No, I don't say that. Like, I don't give him as much props as some people do. Because some people, oh my god, look at that amazing trade. I don't think he like knew how good Nurk was going to be, and I think like the savings made it a big deal. But I do think he did want Nurk back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like kind of in the middle. You know,
right? But you can't like, if you hate Olshay, you will say stuff like that, like. Yeah. Oh, he didn't even want Nurkic. He just made a trade for a first-round pick, and he got lucky that Nurk turned out to be so good. Like, how do you know that he didn't target Nurkic or thought that Nurkic had some potential? But going into that season, Nurkic wasn't even like available because him and Jokic were kind of thought of as the same like untouchable future for Denver. And then, like, once it became apparent that wasn't going to work out with him and he became available, how do you know he wasn't immediately trying to get Nurkic that whole time? And then when he offered him a first-round pick with Nurkic, and he was like, oh, my goodness. Like, we don't know how he valued Nurkic as a player or whatever. And, so I can't ever say that. But so he responded with, I'm sorry if anyone in chat feels this way, but I get so PO'd when people have this response.
Pissed off.
Like I get so pissed off. Like, okay, Neal was hired a few weeks before the draft in which we took Dame. Buchanan and Allen had that pick locked in, but go off, BB. I don't know what BB means. I'm old, I guess.
What the see? Why
So
does he have to?
so
Why does he have to respond like that, bro? Why are everybody so hurt, dude?
um see, and this is the thing, like, so you don't like Olshey, so you're gonna say, oh, that wasn't even Olshey's pick. So like, so what? He got hired to be the GM, and it's not even going to be his draft. Like, he doesn't even get to
Mm-hmm.
choose who he picks. Like, and I know Paul Allen had a lot of influence, but like, it's kind of legendary what Damian Lillard's workout was in Portland. So like, it just makes me mad that like people don't even give him credit for
I mean,
drafting
like,
Damian Lillard. I mean,
yeah.
if you want to say, well, he wasn't the one that traded for the pick, so he came into the situation with a good pick, the sixth
Mm-hmm.
pick, but it's such revisionist history that Damian
What's
Lillard was the
yeah.
obvious pick there, and we had no other choice. It was for sure we could have drafted.
Well, yeah. What about the credit for drafting CJ the year after at 10? Like, that was a good pick. But people just say, "Oh, should have drafted Giannis." And then, oh, what about the credit for Nurk? Oh, he
R.I.P.
lucked in.
Blazers.
He lucked into Nurk. You know what I mean? It's always an excuse
Yeah,
to hate on Olshey, even if it's like legit. But then they'll make the, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's legit, but I mean, I don't know. It's like they'll make excuses. They'll come up with reasons on their own to hate Olshey, but then they'll come up with the most BS, like uneducated excuses to love Stotts. You know, and
yeah.
it's just kind of ridiculous. Like that's like the narrative that people have, man. It's just uneducated. You got a lot of people here with big platforms that aren't educated enough to.
And And here's the thing. I mean, Harrison Barnes, Andre Drummond, those guys were still on the board when we picked. This wasn't a slam dunk. And it was only,
Mm-hmm.
like, for me personally, I like Lillard, but I also like Drummond in that draft. And I was hoping that we had the picks to get both
Yeah,
of them. But, like,
we didn't think
I only,
Barnes was going to
I
be on the
only,
board.
I only became enamored with Dame as much as I was once, like, I started hearing that the Blazers were locked in on him as their choice, right? So like then I was like reading and watching everything I could on Dame. I mean, I knew a lot about him because I followed the draft pretty closely, but like that made me like lock in on like, oh, I got to find out everything about this guy to see if I like him or
Yeah,
not.
I
You
can
know?
honestly say
Uh,
I fell in love with Dame the first time I watched like his highlight tape. Like I was
yeah,
on board the Lillard train before any other Blazer fan that I know. Obviously, I wasn't in the community like this, but like
yeah. And
I was so happy. I've never been that happy at any Blazers move as when we drafted
yeah.
Damian Lillard. And I didn't even think it'd be like this. Holy hell, man.
And Olshey was at the workout
Mm-hmm.
with Paul Allen. So like, how is that? So you're telling me that like he didn't see the same thing as them, and Paul Allen and Chad Buchanan talked a new GM into drafting this player that he didn't want or something? Like, no, he wanted Damian Lillard too. That was his pick as well. But the thing is, like, if Lillard was such a slam dunk pick, why did the Cavs take Dion Waiters at 4? Why did the Hornets take MKG at 2? Why did Sacramento, who needed a point guard, and there's actually a YouTube video of Dame Lillard's workout for the Sacramento Kings out there. You can watch it. I don't know how you watch that and take Thomas Robinson over him. It's just like it wasn't a slam dunk. It was, and I don't know. I just can't stand, like, okay, if you don't like him, use the examples that were bad. Like, you can blame him for messing up the team last year, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals, and then you traded half the team, blah blah blah. Like, that's fine, but like I just don't think all criticisms are valid when it comes to him. And when people make the excuse, well, Stotts got the roster to the Western Conference Finals. Well, how do you know that it wasn't Olshey's roster that got to the Western Conference Finals over Stotts coaching them to the Western Conference Finals,
Yeah.
or
Well, they
vice
just say, well,
versa? Like,
look at the players he has on the roster, man. They're just not that good. You know what I mean? But it's never like anything like, oh, Stotts this set worked out really. It's never like anything in depth, like, oh, this scheme worked well in this situation, or this set worked well here. It's literally just like, well, our players just suck, so the fact that we made it to the Western Conference Finals, Stotts is great, and since our players since they suck, Olshey sucks with them, and Stotts is just, Stotts is carrying the team. Like, it's all that surface level, uneducated, like, no substance type of crap that I can't stand. It's annoying as hell.
Yeah. And Eric Bouchard is saying, I get the high upside picks and everything, but at some point, the team needs to look to move a first rounder for something that can help the damn team. Free agency has been a disaster for us. Well, this is why we're saying we have to trade Whiteside this year to have expiring contracts next year. So when a team like the Knicks want to clear salary and are willing to give up a Porzingis type player just to get rid of salary to make a run at the 2021 free agency, like, it just drives me crazy that like, the deals aren't out there right now. This year, it just, whatever it is, like, it's flooded with expiring contracts from the 2016 market. There's not a lot of interest in the 2020 free agency.
We'll be critical of Olshey if he doesn't, like, set us up for a move next year. You know what I mean? Like, if he doesn't do anything, like, I'm going to be critical of Olshey. That's like a legitimate reason to be critical of him. The thing is, a lot of these people don't have fully legitimate reasons to be critical of him, and basically it's just a bunch of surface level. See, like, I'll go into depth of why I think we need to move Whiteside. Like, I'll go into depth more than anybody you'll hear in media covering this team. I'll go more into depth than them. So that's why, like, I've thought it out enough that my criticism is going to be based on actually knowing what I'm talking about and going into depth on our roster construction, CBA, that type of stuff. These type of people, you got Evan M sitting here saying, O'Shea sucks, he has to thank Dame, and, he lucked into Nurkic, and, he drafted CJ, should have drafted Giannis. It's just like a bunch of revisionist history. It's not, like, legitimate. So,
yeah. Jake Carey says maybe they're both above average. That could
GM.
be the case too.
Stotts is a below average coach. At best. That's how it is, man.
I think Stotts definitely has some strengths and weaknesses. So
Stotts is a below average coach for a contending team. He's an above average coach for a rebuilding team.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And Jake, I know what I'm talking about. I watch a lot of film. I know you do too, so we disagree on that, but it's not me just coming out here trying to hate on Stotts for the hell of it or not knowing what I'm talking about. You also know that I'm not, like, biased against him. If I held bias in my criticism, then I would have never given Olshey. I would have never defended Olshey this year, but I've been defending Olshey all year. And you've known me for long enough that you know that I was really, really hard on Olshey in the past. That's how it is, Lord. See, I knew me saying that would upset him. I knew it'd annoy him. That's why I said it too.
He's messing with you. Clays, you think would you take Cliff Robinson or Jerome Kersey?
Huh? Oh, for the second round pick.
Yeah.
Blazers Uprise, I'm with you. I'm just noting how it feels like the team is rudderless. We always get snake oil Olshey. Blazers won't move Whiteside, and Olshey will sell on summer cap space and TPE. You better not sell on summer cap space because that means we're getting rid of Ariza. It makes no sense to keep Ariza and Whiteside and then go after cap space. Like, because teams want Ariza. We could save more money. We could get back some assets that could help us in the future. So if we're not going to keep Ariza, then it makes no sense. If we're not going to keep Ariza past this summer, it makes no sense to keep him past the trade deadline. So it's kind of the same way with Whiteside. We'd have to get rid of him. It makes no sense to keep him right now and not try to set us up for the future. That's why I'll be critical of him. So you kind of agree with me on that, yeah. Eric Bouchard. I'm talking to Eric Bouchard.
Yeah. Well, that's what puzzles me about all the people on Twitter who are saying what are you talking about? We're not keeping Ariza next year. Like it's a foregone conclusion. Uh,
Yeah.
because why? I understand saving some tax money this year, but like you're adding salary dead money to our cap next year if you do that. So,
Yeah.
um, guys, RIP Blazers. Jokic was a late second round or mid second round pick. There, like every
Hindsight,
team could
yeah.
say, "What if
Hindsight
we would have
bias is
drafted Jokic?"
2020. Yeah. Who knows if he even ends up being a starting level center if he comes here and doesn't get the chance to develop and never gains confidence, and you know what I mean? Like butterfly effect. Like who knows? He probably doesn't become this good if he ends up here. I mean, maybe he does, but he wouldn't be given the same responsibility if he like went to a team that had a Dame and a CJ on it. You know what I mean? He'd be running pick and roll a lot. I don't know. He probably doesn't develop into an all-star in my opinion if the Blazers get him. You know, so hindsight bias is 2020, but also you have to take that into account, man. Yeah. I mean, imagine if we made the right pick in every draft the last 10 years. Yeah, we'd be a freaking 80-win team.
And every team could say that. So Dame wouldn't have been available at the sixth pick. So we wouldn't have Dame if every GM was better than they were. So,
Yeah.
like,
Candleman says there comes a point though where you can't keep saying future. We have time now, but soon Dame will be out his prime. Then what? Well, you got to be realistic. There's not many targets that will take us into contention this year, and even if we make an upgrade this year, we're still staring at in eighth seed and probably losing in the first round. Even if we get a little bit better, I still think this team ends up losing in the first round. So basically, how can we put the best roster on the floor next season, at the end of next season, in the playoffs in 2021? Because next trade deadline there will be better targets available. We'll have a full season of health, so we'll be able to get a much higher seed, and increase our chances of winning a championship by having a much higher seed and a much easier path. And we'll just be in better position to like make a win now trade next season. Who's the best player that's available right now? Candleman, since you're talking about like we gotta make a win now trade right now, who's the best player available that would really help this team contend this year, win a first round series against the Lakers? Like, I want to hear who you think, because I can't think of anybody. So that's why we gotta set ourselves up for next year. I'm not saying wait 3 years until Dame is out of his prime. Dame's still 29 years old. He still has 3 years left of his prime, maybe 4. You know, he takes great care of his body. I could see him being like LeBron and still being a very high level player when he's 34, 35. But I'm not saying wait until then. I'm saying next year, how can we put the best team on the floor? And I get what were you gonna say?
He's saying I'm all for future now, but soon that won't be the case. I feel like it's year after year.
Yeah. See,
it's always the future. But like that's why you're not talking about 2 or 3 years from now, right? You're talking about setting us up to make a trade next year. Next year is the key. Yeah.
Which is like
Jake Curtis.
Grant Williams. Oh my god.
Good one, Jake. They gotta give you an
for that. But Candleman, yeah, that's why I'll be upset if we don't set ourselves up to make a win now trade next year, because you're right, it can't be year after year after year after year until Dame's out of his prime. This year we just don't have many options, so we have to make a trade this year to maximize our flexibility next year so that we can make a win now trade next year and contend next season. And if we don't set ourselves up to do that, then I will be mad after Thursday's trade deadline if we don't do anything. Because then we're setting ourselves up so that it's the same deal next year where we don't make a win now trade, and then we're wasting next year too, because this team needs a legitimate upgrade. So, yeah. Because I think we got especially after next season, I feel like we got the prospects and we got the picks, and if we just have expirings next year, we'll be able to make something happen. I feel like there will be a star available next year. There's not many available now, but there will be a star available next year. Maybe a guy that blows up like a Tobias Harris and then he gets traded. Like maybe, there will be. I mean, Tobias Harris isn't really a star, but he'd be be a very helpful player. But there will be something available next year that we can strike on that will take us into contention. That's why we just need the flexibility, the contracts to match that are expiring, or a huge traded player, etc., or just something to be able to make that trade happen. Because we have the prospects. I think now, we got Colin Simons little. Gary Trent Jr. looks solid, and he's still very, very young. We got the picks. We got all our future picks. So now, and whoever we draft this year could be another prospect to throw in next year, since we might end up with we'll probably end up with the 15th, 16th pick or something like that. So that'll be another prospect to throw into the mix there. We'll have the assets to attach to expirings to go out and get somebody that can swing us into contention.
Yeah.
Realistic trades NBA says, then how about Batum for Whiteside and Hernandez? I assume you mean Batum and Hernan Gomez for Whiteside.
I think it's saying I think it meant Hezonja. Whiteside and Hezonja.
I mean, like we'd need assets back in that just from a common sense standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it help us in the future, but like, if you're Portland, you're not gonna let Charlotte just get out from underneath that contract for free. You know what I mean? Like, most teams would have to trade a first for that. Maybe if they have like a very early second, maybe you'd accept a very early second, multiple seconds in the future.
They have Cleveland's second.
Yeah, so maybe you toss that in, and maybe I don't know. You just try and get as much value as possible, but there's no way it should only be
like 4 second round
there's
picks.
no way it should only be Whiteside for Batum, because they're saving $27 million next year. So that's worth more than just like. They're not going to save that for free, so you have to set a price and you have to negotiate in the best interest of the Portland Trailblazers, and I feel like you meet in the middle and it lands somewhere where we're getting more assets on top of that.
Right now that's the 33rd pick.
Yeah, I mean, you start there, maybe a young player on top of it. On top of that, I mean, they're talking about potentially trading for Julius Randle, so maybe I mean, I doubt it, but maybe they'd be willing to give up PJ Washington. I don't know. But, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't make sense that they'd trade for Randall, because PJ Washington is about as good as Randall is.
Did you hear who they were discussing swapping for Randall? Rozier.
It's just weird, man. I mean, they didn't expect Devontae Graham to blow up, so...
Yeah, Graham's...
But, like, I think maybe if you're Olshey, you'd say, like, if they're looking at Randall, like, okay, we do Whiteside for Batum and PJ Washington. Since PJ Washington and Randall are basically strictly power forwards, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't think Charlotte would do that. But...
Would you do that for Miles Bridges and the second round pick?
I'd do it for Miles. Yeah. Yeah, no problem, RIP Blazers. Yeah, I do Miles Bridges. He hasn't been particularly good this year, but he has flashes. I think they're too high on him. That's the thing, is you'd have to find what works for both teams. But I think the baseline minimum would be like that Cleveland second round pick and another second round pick, but I think you could get a little bit more, since that'd be saving Charlotte a ton of money. They apparently want to go after Drummond in free agency. They apparently they want to make some moves, and they got some good young talent on rookie contracts. You got Graham, you got Washington if they keep him. They have a bunch of expirings this year, so if they were just able to get out from Batum's contract, they would have so much money this summer. And I know it's a weak free agent class, but not a ton of teams have money, so maybe they could make a splash, take on money for assets. Like, getting rid of Batum's contract would be helpful.
Eric Bouchard just brought up something that I was about to mention, which would be really interesting, pick swap.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about in the past, actually, a pick swap. Maybe you top 4 protect it, and if the pick swap doesn't happen, then you get Cleveland's second round pick and some future second round picks or something.
I wonder if they would not. What if they agree to not protect it?
Oh, then I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Because right now it's 6 versus 14, so they're basically moving back 8 spots to.
Oh, I would do that in a heartbeat, and I would be pissed if Olshey didn't do that. I would, if I was like an assistant GM and he turned that down, I'd probably quit on. Oh, dude. You can't. If it's unprotected, you had a chance to get like a number one overall pick, get a James Wiseman level prospect, or like the thing is, if you get a number one overall pick, you can attach that to Batum's expired contract and get something better. I don't know. Like, I don't think they do a unprotected pick swap. I don't think Charlotte would do that. I think it'd have to be like top 5 protected.
Top three.
I think it have to be at least top 5 because you got 4 top prospects at the top of this draft.
Well, the thing that helps us though is the fact that our pick's not going to be worse than like 17.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah, I just think like moving from like 4 to 17 is too much to shed Batum. I think it'd have to be top 5 protected. I think like you got like a good like 4 or 5. But like if you could get if we could get the 7th pick, 6th pick for taking on Batum ends up being expiring, we could have a chance at Obi Toppin or somebody like that in a year that we still make the playoffs. Like, yeah. How does Wiseman fit on this roster? I don't know, but it's just in terms of asset acquisition. You would probably trade elsewhere, but I mean, like Wiseman backup center, and then you try and flip him at some point. You know what I mean? Like, see, and Jake was talking about like Bridges and Little are a bit duplicative. It's more, okay, we want Batum as an expiring contract next year, but we also want additional assets on top of that so we could use in other trades. So it's not like we're looking to keep him long term. It's more like, okay, we're trying to get additional flexibility by having a big expiring contract next year, as well as add to our asset pool. It's not really about like fit in terms of like our prospects and our asset pool, since at some point we're going to make a win now trade. That's the only point we're getting Batum in the first place. And if we make a win now trade, then we're trading some of that asset pool. So we trade one of Bridges or Little.
Yeah. And if we had a top 5 pick, then you could start saying like, oh well, how much would we have to add from Cat in the 2nd pick for, or Batum in the 2nd pick for
exactly.
Cat, and then you start getting in the range for players like that could actually completely change the direction of.
I mean, that's why I don't think Charlotte would do that, an unprotected pick swap. I think that's too much to give up to save money. Charlotte's kind of dumb, but I don't think they do it unprotected. But like, if we got the 7th pick or something, that would be a helpful asset. You attach that to future picks, and like if we had like, you know, little Colin Simons, Trent 7th pick, 2 future picks, like that's a pretty good package. I think that's a really, really solid package. So yeah, if you know, Batum's expiring contract at that point.
Was that what Minnesota, when they got Butler, gave up like Levine and
they gave up the 7th pick, Levine and
Chris Dunn in the 7th pick, and they got back the 15th pick,
they got
right?
back the 15th pick.
And everyone was saying Chicago was dumb.
So if there's any way to take on 2-year contracts to possibly get a pick swap and like get a little higher draft pick, you do that in a heartbeat, because it opens up more stuff in the future. It helps your flexibility in the future. It just put the team in a better position to make the win now upgrade, because that's what it's all about. It's not about keeping Assad for 2 more months as a backup center to make a run as an 8th seed and then maybe hope he stays, but then kind of be screwed in terms of trying to make the win now trade. All I care about is make that win now trade, which is probably going to come this offseason or next year, not this year. So we need to set ourselves up.
I wondered how you can do that. Like, let's say it was top 5 protected, and it didn't convey. Like, then it becomes like they owe us the Cleveland pick and maybe a future pick swap or something.
Yeah.
I wonder how that could be worded.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Because you're right, like the Cleveland pick is not enough to.
I mean, MJ's
on,
always
you know,
MJ's always been notoriously cheap with that franchise too. You know.
Yeah, but they're not in a situation even with Batum where I think they have cap space even with Batum.
Yeah, I just mean I don't know, like I don't know what they're doing. They're a weird franchise. I mean, Kupchak runs that ship now, right? So didn't he?
I mean, I don't know how much Jordan.
I mean, Kupchak gave away D'Angelo Russell to get rid of Mozgov's contract and only got back Brook Lopez, who he only had for a year.
Wasn't that Palenka?
No, I thought Kupchak was still there, wasn't he?
No, I think that's when they
yeah, maybe that was Palenka.
They fired Kupchak because he's the one who signed Dang
And
Luol
Mozgov.
Deng.
Why would they ever do that? Why would you do that
Mozgov.
for 4 years? You're the Lakers, man. God, that's so silly. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. That's why we'll be critical, man. Hopefully, O'Shea figures things out.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what happens, man. I'm set. I expect disappointment. Every trade deadline has been a bit of a buzzkill.
But yeah, so they came in and tried to. That's how they got rid of salary, was to attach Mozgov to D'Angelo Russell. But they had the second pick, 3 years in a row or something, and they had the sixth pick or something the year before that.
Is there any other teams that could present pick swaps that have second-year contracts they'd want to get rid of? Let me look at the mock draft.
No, unfortunately, almost every. There's not a lot of bad contracts anymore. That
maybe
the only thing I think is if Detroit really wanted to get rid of Blake Griffin's contract.
I'd do that in a heartbeat. Just you could possibly get in, higher in the lottery, and then you take the chance. Okay, maybe Blake Griffin finds a way to get healthy and becomes the Blake Griffin he was last year. You know what I mean? Like that. And if not, well, we got a higher pick from it, and we're kind of stuck with this contract for a year, but we got a higher pick from it, So I mean, for that risk, I would do that in a heartbeat. Or maybe I have a tough time seeing Chicago giving a pick swap to get out from I don't know. Young seems to have value, even though I don't think he should, and the really bad contract is Felicia, which is $8 million, so that's not enough money to shed to pick swap. Maybe Sacramento, but I doubt that. Sacramento has always been kind of weird though, but they have Dedmon that's owed 13 some million next year. They have Corey Joseph, which is owed 12 million some next year. So maybe I don't know, maybe they want to get out from their contracts, but
yeah, I just don't know if that's enough to. Who knows with Divac though? He's
Phoenix doesn't have anybody. New Orleans doesn't have anybody. Yeah, so I mean, Charlotte for Batum is really the only one.
Yeah.
Let's sim the lottery. I'm on Tankathon. Oh, Charlotte got the fourth overall pick. Who do they have? Cole Anthony, but Obi Toppin's available. Actually, this is more of a three-man draft. I mean, maybe Cole Anthony's in the top four, but you got Wiseman, Edwards, Ball, and Anthony, and then the fifth pick they have projected is Halliburton. They're all point guards or setters, Edwards is a shooting guard, but we don't need a guard. We need a forward. So Then sixth they have Killian Hayes, which I didn't realize he was that high. Maybe it's just Tankathon. 7 is Okonkwo, who's listed as a power forward / center, but he's more of a setter. 8th is RJ Hampton, another guard. 9th is Nico Mannion, another guard. And then 10th is Jaden McDaniels, who's a forward, but he's a project. He'll take some time. 11th is Avdija. Avdija's the first prospect that on this mock draft. Obi Toppin should go top 10. I don't know why they have him as 13th here, but Obi Toppin would be my the target that I'd want to trade up for and go get.
Am I crazy? I don't really like Cole Anthony's game.
I haven't watched him enough. He's just been hurt all year. But he seems.
I watched some of the game the other day. I know he struggled, so probably wasn't a good game to judge him on. But I don't know. I don't. I think he's a little.
He seems
overrated.
like he could be a Dennis Smith Jr. type of prospect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just a guy who's not a good enough shooter, not good enough at anything else to make up for that. That's that's like a lot of busts have kind of been like that. Josh Jackson is a notable one who wasn't a good enough shooter, not a good enough anywhere else offensively to be a good player. And they were like hyping up his defense, but his defense wasn't like he wasn't like the best. He wasn't a top 5 defender in the league. You know what I mean? It's hard to kind of project those guys. Usually, the guys that are really good defenders are guys who were drafted like second round or like in terms of like wing defenders, or like physical freaks like Giannis. So I don't know. Cole Anthony just seems like that type of guy. Like he's not going to be a good defender, so he has to be good offensively. Or I don't think he's going to be a good defender, but offensively, man, he just seems like he's too streaky. Like he'll be a solid shooter, but like it doesn't seem like he's a good enough playmaker. And if his shooting isn't great, then he might have some trouble.
Yeah, so I was watching him play. I was like, man, I think he's going to struggle to get a shot off and for a point guard in the NBA, that's kind of becoming a critical thing to have.
I'm basing it mostly just off reading scouting reports and stuff, but
yeah, he just, I don't know, he just came back from an injury and they had a bad game, so it might have just been a little.
Yeah, I mean, like you have a lot of question marks at the top of this draft. That's why it's not a good draft. I don't think LaMelo will be like as good as. I don't think LaMelo. I don't know. LaMelo could not, or he could end up being a bust. I think, because I don't think he's as good of I don't think he's that good of a shooter. I don't think LaMelo's that good of a shooter, and I think with this form, with like his tendency to shoot some bad shots that he hasn't got rid of even at the pro level, like I could see him being a mediocre shooter, and he's not going to be I highly doubt he's going to be a good defender. So you're really talking about like a guy who needs to get downhill and play make, but he doesn't have a great vertical jump. So I feel like he's crafty with the ball, but I feel like he might struggle to finish inside. He's just not like super explosive. And if he's not like a good outside shooter and like not super explosive and struggles to get shots off around the rim and isn't a good defender, like, you know what I mean? I could see him ending up being that type of player, and would be a bust. He does have like a lot of natural talent, and if he can be a good shooter and if he's crafty enough to finish inside around bigs, and that would open up his playmaking, and then he could use that playmaking to just be like an all-around really good point guard. Like I could see that happening, or I could see it the other way where he's not crafty enough or good enough to finish inside and not a good enough shooter to really like make the best use of his passing ability, if that makes sense.
He definitely needs to be in a system that will allow him to run. Like he'd be terrible on the Blazers, I think. Like a team that doesn't push the ball,
Let Me On Dude says his vision is amazing. I think LaMelo is like Ricky Rubio 2.0. Yeah, I mean like Ricky Rubio, except he like thinks he's Steph. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. His work ethic is like reported as erratic. I could see him getting to the league and then not working the same. Working on his game the same. He has question marks. Anthony Edwards has a lot of question marks. I've seen him the most out of like the top 4 prospects, and he's just a guy who's like really strong and can get downhill, but like loves settling for jumpers, and it's kind of hard to work that out from somebody, and he just like disappears too much, streaky, like I don't know. He's a hard fit player to figure out because you look at his body, man. He looks like he should be, and you look at his body compared with his skills, and when he is hitting shots, like he looks really good, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to hear what Jake Carey thinks on this because I know he like scouts people more than I do because I don't really have the time like I used to. So but Anthony Edwards gives me bust vibes. I think James Wiseman might be the safest pick, but would like to have seen him more. He's just super athletic and big, but he's going to have to become more skilled. That's his thing. So lots of question marks.
Alex Wolf, you've asked that question like 20 times now. We've talked about it in chat and a little bit on here, so I don't know why you keep asking it. Just scroll up and read back when you asked that.
Jake says the
4
Jake
times.
says the top of this draft is rough. Yeah, I mean, if I was, I would hate to be a team at the top of this draft. Because it's going to be hard to trade that pick, and then you're probably not going to get what you would expect out of a 3rd overall pick or whatever. I'd honestly probably try and trade down, see what you can get trading down, and then I don't know, maybe take a Jaden McDaniels type project at like 8th or an Avdija or something, because I think you have guys like 8th through 12th. I think there will be like one, maybe two players from there that will end up being better than the 3 of the top 4, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, see, I don't think there's ever like a worthless draft, but I think this kind of drafts are where you can find guys that'll help you, like a Brogdon or something, where he'll end up being better than a lot of the guys that went ahead of him. So yeah, I completely disagree with Clay's. He was saying we don't need someone to develop for 2 or 3 years. We need to trade this pick to get someone that'll help us now. All that stuff. I don't know. There's literally several examples in every draft of players that help teams right away.
There's not much available this year either on the trade market, so let's keep this pick, get a prospect, and then next year trade that pick in a better draft, and we're in more of a position to make a win now trade, and there will be more available, or not more in position. Maybe we will be more in position if Olshey actually does some work at this trade deadline, but there will probably be more out there, and the draft will be bigger, so or better, so our pick will still be worth what our pick is this year, even if it's later. So I don't know. We don't have to trade this pick this year. It sucks that this is the year we're struggling in, because right now, looking at 14th overall projected pick, our options just based off this mock draft, there's Isaac Okoro, Josh Green, Paul Reed, Verdon Carey Jr., Isaiah Stewart, Precious, God, I always forget how to say his name, Achua, Theo Maladon, you got Jamius Ramsey, Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, Joel Ayayi. You know what I mean? Like, none of those names are inspiring to me. It's the opposite of like the Zach Collins draft, where at like 15 you had like Anunoby available, Jared Allen available, John Collins available, even though I wasn't super high on him. You had, I'm forgetting a couple names that were good. Kyle Kuzma got drafted 27th. I mean, there might be a guy or two like that out of this draft, but prospects aren't exciting, man.
Yeah, I mean, we still have time to. We'll see.
There's a big drop off, in my opinion, from 13 to 14. Just looking at this, because you got Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Cole Anthony, Halliburton, Toppin, Okongwu, Killian Hayes, R.J. Hampton, Nico Mannion, Jaden McDaniels, Denny Avdija, and Tyrese Maxey. I think that is the top 13 there. Am I missing someone, Jake Carey? Should I put somebody else in that tier? Should I take somebody out of that tier? But like,
he said he likes Okoro and Vassell.
I don't like Okoro, man. I don't know. I'm not. But I haven't seen him enough. You know what I mean? I need to watch him more, but I just didn't come away impressed. I still need to watch more of him though. So you probably always watch more of Okoro than I do.
You two have a podcast and 2 post-game shows up.
What? I don't know. You see what he means by that?
We have 2 of each up. We had some issues. We had to start a new stream.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit about Maladon. I might have been.
He was projected today, top 5 in the summer, but he's fallen down boards, man.
I heard that he was doing better lately, and his shot looks a lot better. It's almost like Little's transition from kind of wonky shot to much more smoother. Yeah. But we don't need a point guard, so it's kind of.
I think it's crazy that Ayayi is being projected in the first round by this site. I'm a Gonzaga fan. He should not be projected in the first round. Ayayi. But See, like, the thing with Akaro that I don't like is he's not a good shooter. He's not a good shooter. I'll look up his stats here. There he is.
Hey, there's the people's mix. What's up, man?
Akaro is shooting 28.3% from three this year. That was a college 3-point line. He's shooting 66.7% from the free throw line. So he's just not a guy who shoots the ball well. He's shot better lately than he did to start the year, it looks like, but I don't know. I want to hear why Jake Carey likes him, though.
People's mix still asking what software you use. Just tell him so he stops.
Streamlabs OBS. If you want to get there's like a membership where you can download different themes and stuff. That's like $20 a month or something. If you want to do that, if any of you guys want to do that and download and get a membership to Streamlabs OBS, let me know. I can get a referral code and it will help me out a little bit and it will save you some money. Just let me know in the comment section of this video, not in the live chat, because I won't see it or remember.
What did y'all need? I got suspended on Twitter.
Did you get suspended on Twitter a lot? Crazy, I'm going to have to eat breakfast and lunch in the same live stream. Love it. At Tori and at Eric. Yeah, I'm probably going to get off here in a sec.
Yeah. I'm still at work.
Yeah,
so.
crap, I forgot about that. Well, because I'm getting tired. We got 40 people in here. So, yeah, I'm going to probably log off. I do have that lighting right, Jason Joseph. But yeah, I'm probably gonna log off, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll have I have OBS for okay, let me respond to this. People's Mix. I have OBS for free. What the heck is Streamlabs? Okay, so like the graphics and stuff, and the stream border, and like the like animations when somebody donates, I still have to like figure out. But like the supporter bar that I have at up there that updates when people donate, so I just don't have it like connected properly at the moment. But like that type of stuff, that's Streamlabs OBS, and you have a bunch of different themes, a bunch of different I don't know. There's like a lot of different features with it that you don't get with OBS, like a ton of different stuff that most streamers use. So if you're trying to like make it legit, then that's what you
Come to think of it, I didn't notice a bunch of stupid stuff retweeted in my feed today. So
what do you mean?
Yeah, People's Mix wasn't on Twitter. So he retweets.
Hey,
he retweets a lot of stuff.
Dude, I like having his vibe. His
No,
I like.
just
there's certain people that I actually like. You know, love all you guys. But there's certain people that I like their certain like persona, you know, it feels different without them in chat, you know, Captain, Trevin hasn't been around in a while. I gotta catch up with him.
We haven't had many burners like
Russell first round exit Westbrook hasn't been around. WTF, you're still alive? Yeah, that's like the fifth person that said that. Yeah, I was about to log off. Yeah, no problem, People's Mix. Just let me know if you want to like get that, because you have to get the membership to get all those graphics. Let me know and I'll get you a referral code that'll save you money and help me out. What were you saying, Eric?
I was just saying that I don't remember. Oh, I think a lot of people are in school, so
yeah,
it's hard for some school to stuff.
What time is the live stream tomorrow? I'll set an alarm. 3 p.m. our time for the podcast, and then we might stream tomorrow night if like some trade stuff goes down. We'll cover all the trades.
Or if a trade happens earlier in the day,
then the podcast will kind of take care of that. Travioli. Yeah, where's Travioli been, bro? Oh, he just got married. He was on his honeymoon,
right?
Does he tweet at you or something?
There he was. No, he came in. I don't know if that was the last
stream that I wasn't on.
No, it was. It was either the Lakers game or Utah game. One of those two came on and been like, "Hey guys, I'm on my honeymoon." Just popped in and said hi or something.
Nice. Happy for him, man. Good for him. Anyway.
There's Cody. Can't believe you guys are still up. We still got 40 people.
I need to film a mailbag tonight. I wanted to get that out today. It kind of last night wasn't fun, but gonna get it out tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll might just make it one big episode.
Let me on, dude. Says I'm new, but y'all are fun. Oh, well,
nice,
thanks for listening.
It's nice to hear that from people that are new. So appreciate it.
We got all kinds of trade coverage the next 2 days too, so we'll be doing these streams a lot.
I'm kind of excited for the trade deadline to be over though, because then we can kind of, I don't know, since everything is so geared up and revved up in terms of trade stuff. I feel like we got no like. Our banter is gone, we're just like trade, and Tess just like trade for, this guy, trade for that guy, trade for Hayward. Should we maybe trade for Andre Drummond? It's like, no. Should we trade for Harold Montrezl? You know what I mean? Like trade suggestion, like that's literally all chat is right now. So it'll be kind of nice to get past that. But that's
also something that people are interested in talking about, so it becomes less interesting once that's
True. I mean, like, yeah, I'm expecting numbers to drop a little bit, but if we're playing well, especially if we have some new players too, hopefully we get some new players. I don't know, but it'll be different because all year, even first game of the season, I'd hear trade stuff like every single stream. So, I mean, maybe people will start talking about the summer, but it'll just be interesting to see what chat's like without the trade deadline. With the trade deadline passed. Ashton Woodley says, have a good one, Tori and Eric. Love the streams. Appreciate your work. Love our team. Appreciate it, Ashton. Have a good night. Realistic trade talk is fun. Most stuff in media makes no sense. I know. It drives me crazy, bro. Trust me. We come up with hypotheticals, but we try and be realistic. It can be hard, but anyway. The People's Mix, we've talked about... We've talked about this all stream, man. You see, we've been live for 2 hours. So just said we've been talking about trades,
and we were live on like 2 hours on the other stream.
Man, we've been going since 8:30. Jeez. So we've been live for 4.5 hours.
Hey, People's Mix, I have something for you. Earlier in the stream, Tori broke down a bunch of trades which he thought were on the screen, but weren't, and you'd really like it. So go back and check that out. Did you see what
Chris Broussard said? Yeah, he's dumb. Yeah. Well, Eric didn't let me know. Eric was supposed to help me out with that, but he didn't let me know, and now he's mocking me for it, even though he was supposed to have my back. I don't get it.
How was I supposed to know you were trying to do something? Like, I just thought you were talking about these things and looking them up, but yeah.
Jeffrey Nickett says, yo, Tori, what do you think about that British guy reacting to new sports? Sorry, comment there. I always enjoy watching people, like, who aren't basketball fans kind of, like, react to basketball, just, like, it's interesting, because I dive into it so deep, and it's been a part of my life so long, it's interesting to see, like, somebody who's, like, new to the game, who doesn't know players, like, but, is like a fan of another sport or whatever, like it's kind of interesting to watch them react. So, yeah, interesting that you saw my comment. This dude responded to Dame, and I was filling him in on Dame a little bit, just like British guy. But yeah,
it's like they're trying to explain it to a kid or something.
Yeah, I feel like most people say like, why would you watch that? I don't know, it's entertaining for me. Their accent's entertaining to me too, not gonna lie. Anyway, got People's Mix coming in here at the wrong time, man. We're signing off. We've been live forever, so yeah, we'll I'm hungry. Eric is going for lunch. See you guys at 3 p.m. our time. Awesome, man. We have to get you on one of these soon. Probably after the trade deadline, maybe before the All-Star break, we can get you on. Actually, it depends on what works for you. I know you're busy and stuff, so just send me a message on Patreon. You know what the deal is. And yeah, we'll catch all you guys later. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for staying with us till the middle of the night, basically. We'll catch you guys tomorrow with the podcast. Until then, have a good night. Peace out. Go Blazers.